A desperate rancher purchases a 19-year-old at auction and marries her before sundown. This was ranch land, wide, empty, and unforgiving. It had broken stronger people than Elia's cade, yet he still stood. Elias leaned against the fence that marked the edge of his property. The fence was old, patched together with scrap metal and wire, just like everything else he owned. Beyond it stretched land his family had worked for 3 generations. Soon, it would no longer be his. A small drone hovered nearby, projecting a red notice in the air. Final seizure warning. And the syndicate always got paid. Unless he closed his eyes and let out a slow breath. Unless he used the last law no one wanted to touch. The law was older than the colony itself. When humans first settled the outer worlds, survival came before comfort. Governments wrote strange rules back then, rules meant to keep people alive, not happy. Most were erased over time. Most. One remained buried deep in frontier legal code, emergency civil union statute. If a registered landholder formed a legal union with another unattached human citizen before seizure time, the land could not be taken for one full cycle. The law assumed 2 citizens working together had a better chance to recover. No one liked the law. Other species found it confusing. Many humans found it uncomfortable, and some corporations hated it because it worked. But Elias had no partner, no family left, no time. There was only one place left to find a legal match before sundown, the auction hall. The Frontier Civic Exchange stood at the edge of the capital settlement, a square gray building with no windows and no decoration. It was not a slave market, no matter what outsiders whispered. It was a government-run system for citizenship sponsorship contracts. People who lost their citizenship through debt, refusal of military service, or political punishment could bid for a sponsor. The sponsor did not own them. The sponsor accepted legal responsibility for their welfare and rights. Still, the word auction made many uncomfortable. Elias entered the hall with his hat in his hands. The room was large and quiet. Raised platforms lined the center, each with a single chair. Above them, screens displayed names, ages, skills, and legal status. Guards stood along the walls, neutral and bored. The bidders sat in rows, mostly corporate agents and wealthy settlers looking for cheap labor contracts. Elias felt out of place. He was not here for labor. He was here for a legal lifeline. Mara Vey stood on platform 7. She was young, only 19, but her posture was straight and calm. Her dark hair was tied back. Her eyes moved slowly across the room, not with fear but with focus. Her screen read, "Status, citizenship revoked. This candidate has refused military enhancement procedures but remains mentally fit and legally sound." Murmurs passed through the crowd. Military cadets were risky. They asked questions. They knew the law. Elias felt his heart beat faster. That was exactly why he was here. Mara had known this day would come. When she refused the neural program, they warned her. They said the implants were safe, that everyone did it, that refusing meant she wasn't fully cooperative. She told them no. She didn't scream. She didn't fight. She simply walked away. Now she stood on a platform, waiting for strangers to decide her future with raised hands and numbers. Still, she refused to bow her head. If someone sponsored her, she would make sure it was someone she could trust, or at least understand. Her eyes stopped on one man near the back. He wasn't dressed like a buyer. His boots were worn, his coat was faded, his hands were rough, and he was looking at her, not the screen. The bidding began. "Standard rate," the auctioneer called. "Any takers?" A corporate agent raised a hand. Another followed. Elias waited. He remembered the lawyer's words from that morning. You must finalize the union before sundown, and it must be mutual, no coercion. If the sponsored citizen refuses, the contract is void. Elias swallowed. This was not buying a person. This was asking someone to step into a storm with him. The price climbed. Not high, just enough to discourage casual bidders. When the auctioneer called for the final time, Elias raised his hand. The room went quiet. A rancher bidding against corporations was unusual. The final number flashed. Sold, the auctioneer said. Platform 7, sponsorship assigned. Mara looked directly at Elias, not surprised, curious. They met in a side room reserved for contract confirmation. No guards stood inside, no cameras recorded. By law, this part was private. Mara crossed her arms. You're not a company agent. No, Elias said. I run cattle, she raised an eyebrow. On Kestrel 9, yes. That land is under seizure. It will be, he said honestly. At sundown, Mara studied him. Then why sponsor me? Elias took off his hat and held it against his chest. Because the law says if I form a legal union before sunset, the land is protected. 1 year, that's all I need. She was silent. And what do I get? She asked. You get full citizenship restoration, Elias said. Equal legal standing, your own share in the union, and freedom to leave after the year is up. Mara's eyes narrowed. Marriage, yes. Not ownership. No, not control. No, she paced the small room. Mara had studied old law. Frontier law was strange, emotional, and human. Other species hated it because it relied on intent, not just words. Why me? She asked. Elias met her gaze. Because you understand consent. And because you chose not to be altered just to make others comfortable. Mara stopped pacing. That answer mattered. Outside, the sun moved slowly toward the horizon. Time was running out. Mara sat down across from Elias. If I agree, she said, this is a partnership. I speak freely, I act freely. Yes. And if I say no, Elias nodded, then I lose my land and you walk out of here unchanged. Mara leaned back. For the first time that day, she smiled slightly. Most people don't give that choice, she said. Most people aren't desperate, Elias replied. She extended her hand. Then let's read the contract. The document was long but clear. Emergency union. Shared legal responsibility. No hidden clauses. No authority imbalance. At the bottom, a countdown clock blinked. Time remaining, 01:12:43. Mara signed first. Elias signed second. The system chimed softly. Emergency civil union registered. Looks like we beat sundown. Elias let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Yes, he said quietly, looks like it. Neither of them noticed the faint signal spike rising from beneath the ranch soil. Elias Cade and Mara Vey rode side by side across the ranch on a slow, dusty path. Neither spoke much. Words were not needed yet. The law had saved the land for now, but the work had just begun. Elias glanced at Mara. Her expression was sharp, alert. Her hands rested easily on her knees, but her eyes scanned the horizon as though she expected danger at any moment. That instinct, developed during her time as a cadet, was one reason he had chosen her. Other bidders may have been wealthy or clever, but she understood rules. And understanding rules was as valuable as having weapons on the frontier. They reached the main ranch house, a low, wooden structure patched with metal sheets and old timber. The building had survived more storms than either of them could remember, but it looked tired now, sagging in the middle. Elias stopped the rover outside and turned to Mara. Your room, he said, pointing to a small second-floor chamber. It's modest but clean. I hope that's acceptable. Mara nodded. She did not need luxury. Shelter and safety were enough. The law had given her a home again, and that was a start. As she moved inside, Elias remained outside, staring at the fading sunlight. Something was off. He couldn't explain it, but he felt eyes on the ranch. Not human eyes, alien eyes. Ever since the auction, he had felt the subtle pressure of attention, not threatening but observant, calculating. He shook the thought away. Focus on the land first, he told himself. Everything else could wait. Inside, Mara unpacked a small bag she had carried with her from the settlement. Among her few belongings were a datapad, a notebook full of handwritten codes, and a small, smooth stone she had always carried. She placed them carefully on a shelf, then sat on the edge of the bed, considering Elia's situation. "He didn't choose me because of the law alone," she muttered to herself. "He chose me because I can help him survive it." She understood frontier logic. On Kestrel 9, survival depended on reading systems, rules, and loopholes. Corporations could bulldoze towns, alien authorities could threaten settlers, but humans had always adapted. Humans remembered old laws. Humans could outthink machines. Humans survived because they refused to give up. Mara smiled faintly. The frontier still had its advantages. The syndicate thought they had cornered the Cades, but they had underestimated human ingenuity. That night, the wind blew hard across the plains. It rattled the windows and lifted clouds of dust around the ranch. Inside, Elias and Mara sat across from each other at a small wooden table, reviewing maps and records of the land. "This," Elias said, pointing at the northern boundary, "is where they want to build a mining station. If they get it, the soil will be ruined for 10 cycles." Mara leaned in, tracing the area with her finger. "You don't need to fight them with money. You need to make the land untouchable by law. The old terraforming relics buried here, have you checked them?" Elias froze. "I thought that was just a story my grandfather told." Mara shook her head. "Not a story, I've seen records. The relic can restore land automatically and make it legally classified as human-protected property. Only humans can activate it. No one else knows the sequence. Not the syndicate, not the aliens." Elia's eyes widened. "You mean it can save the ranch, really?" "Yes," Mara said, leaning back. "But it has conditions. You need 2 humans working together. One alone can't do it. Timing is critical, and the activation must be voluntary. You can't force it." Elias swallowed. "Then the auction, the union, it wasn't just saving the land for paperwork. It was selecting the right partner." Mara nodded. "Exactly. You weren't desperate enough to win alone. You needed the right human to act with you." For a moment they both sat in silence, listening to the wind outside. The truth settled between them. Humans had survived countless threats, not through sheer power but by cleverness and trust. And now, on this isolated planet, that trust would be tested again. Before dawn, the first signal arrived. A small sphere of light hovered above the ranch, flickering like a hovering drone. But this was no human device. Its movement was smooth, almost liquid, and its color shifted from silver to deep blue. Mara immediately recognized the pattern. "Alien observers," she said. "They're monitoring us. They've detected the auction and the union. They want to see if humans will follow old laws." Elias frowned. "So they're curious?" Mara shook her head. "Not curious, testing. Humans survive when cornered. They don't understand how dangerous that can be. They expect us to fail or cheat. If we succeed, they'll be forced to adjust their protocols." The sphere emitted a soft hum. It was not threatening, yet the presence of alien attention changed everything. Every step they took, every plan they made, now carried a weight. They were no longer only fighting the syndicate. They were under scrutiny from a galaxy that still underestimated humans. That morning, they began work on the relic. Mara guided Elias to a hidden chamber beneath the main barn. The entrance was cleverly disguised with old feed barrels and farm equipment. As they moved aside the cover, a faint glow illuminated the stairwell leading underground. "This is it," Mara whispered. "This is where the relic rests. The systems are old, but the protocols are intact. You just need to follow my lead." Elias nodded, though he felt a flicker of doubt. Machinery buried for centuries, ancient legal loopholes, alien observation. It all seemed impossible. And yet this was human ingenuity in its purest form. Humans thrived in impossible situations. Inside the chamber, the relic pulsed faintly, responding to their presence. It was a large, crystalline structure embedded into the soil, its edges covered with metallic glyphs. It hummed softly, almost like it was alive. Do not touch it yet, Mara warned. It responds only to humans who voluntarily share intent. The union, that is why we can do this together. Elias extended a hand, trembling slightly. He had seen relics in museums, read about them in history books, but never expected to activate one himself. Mara's hand hovered above the control glyphs, waiting for his signal. At the exact moment, they pressed together. The relic glowed brighter, and the hum increased into a soft vibration. The ground beneath the ranch shifted subtly, as though the soil itself were breathing. Outside, the alien sphere pulsed in response, recording, analyzing. Somewhere far away, alien councils must have been alerted. Humans working together had found a way to bend both law and technology. Again, hours passed. The relic responded, reshaping patches of land, improving soil quality, repairing damaged irrigation channels. Fields that had been barren now showed traces of green growth. It was slow but undeniable. The ranch, the land, the family legacy. It was returning, not through money or violence, but through human ingenuity, cooperation, and legal cleverness. When they finally emerged from the underground chamber, sweat streaked their faces and dirt coated their clothes. Elias looked at Mara and laughed quietly. "We did it," he said. "The land, it's coming back." Mara smiled. "Not just the land, we did it together." That is what they cannot understand, what no one can predict. Humans, we survive when we trust each other. Elias nodded. The syndicate, the aliens, they'll see it too. Yes, Mara said, and that will change everything. As the sun dipped below the horizon, a soft glow settled over the restored fields. Elias looked at Mara and realized that the rushed union, the auction, the desperate decision, it was more than survival. It was proof that humans, when cornered, were unpredictable, clever, and resilient. Alien eyes watched silently from above, but they did not intervene. For now, humans had reclaimed their ground, legally, technologically, and morally. The frontier had been tested and humans had prevailed once again. "Tomorrow," Mara said quietly, "we prepare for what comes next. They will not give up easily." Elias nodded. "No, but neither will we. We have the land, and we have each other. That's enough." The wind carried the sound of alien observers retreating, at least for the moment. Above the plains, stars began to appear, faint but bright against the darkening sky. Humans had survived another test, using wits, law, and cooperation, not force. And on Kestrel 9, the frontier was alive once more. The morning sun rose over Kestrel 9, but it brought no warmth. The air was sharp, dry, and metallic with the dust of the plains. Elias Cade and Mara Vey stood on the main porch, surveying the fields that had begun to heal overnight. Tiny green shoots dotted the brown soil like stars against the night sky, proof that the relic had worked. Yet both knew this calm was only temporary. "Someone's watching," Mara said quietly, her eyes scanning the horizon. Elias frowned. "The aliens again." "Not exactly," Mara replied. "More than that, I can feel the pattern. They're studying how humans succeed. They don't just want to see what we do. They want to see if we cheat, if we bend laws, if we find loopholes they didn't anticipate." Elias rubbed his jaw. "And if they don't like what we do, they'll act," Mara said. "Not violently yet, but they will try to block the relic or pressure the syndicate to return." Elias sighed. "I hoped surviving the auction would be the hardest part." Mara shook her head. "This is just the beginning." By midday, movement stirred on the northern horizon. Small hovercrafts glided across the plains, their engines silent but their presence undeniable. Elias squinted. The corporate syndicate had arrived, probably alerted by the auction. They weren't soldiers, they were negotiators, legal enforcers, and bureaucrats, but their intent was clear. The syndicate wanted the land back, or at least wanted to test the limits of the new union. Elias and Mara met near the barn. "They're here for the relic," Mara said. "Not just the land. If they understand even a fraction of its capabilities, they'll try to exploit it." Elias clenched his fists. "Then we show them it's ours. Legally, technologically, everything. But how? They have the law on their side. Mara smiled faintly. We already outsmarted the law. The relic only responds to humans with intent. They can have all the legal paperwork they want, but if they try to force it, it won't work. Elias nodded slowly. Humans survived because they adapted, not because they were stronger. Even the most advanced alien minds could not anticipate the human ability to bend rules, use timing, and act with clever intent. By afternoon, a small delegation arrived at the ranch's edge. Their hovercrafts touched down softly on the plains, and three figures stepped out. They were humanoid but taller, with smooth silver skin and eyes that reflected light like polished gemstones. Elias gripped the wooden railing, feeling the old familiar tension. Mara stood beside him, calm but alert. The tallest figure stepped forward. Its voice was a soft hum, almost melodic. "Humans of Kestrel 9, it began, your recent actions have been noted. Your survival, though legal, is unexpected. We are here to observe and ensure compliance with galactic regulations." Elias raised a brow. "Observation. You've already been observing." The alien's reflective eyes glimmered. "We are studying human ingenuity. Your species' ability to circumvent outdated laws and activate prehistorical technology is statistically improbable. We wish to see if you can sustain this success." Mara exchanged a glance with Elias. "They don't understand humans," she muttered. "They think survival is about strength or numbers. It is. It's about timing, cooperation, and willingness to take calculated risks." Elias nodded. "Then we give them a show, but on our terms." Over the next few hours, the aliens hovered around, recording every movement. They examined the relic from a distance, projecting light pulses and scanning patterns. They were meticulous, almost clinical, as though they believed humans might fail if stressed. Mara led Elias to the underground chamber. "We can't let them see the activation sequence directly. They'll try to copy it." Elias frowned. "Then what do we do?" Mara pointed to a small set of glyphs on the relic. "We use intention. Only humans working together can trigger it. Their observation won't matter. The sequence isn't just technical, it's psychological. They can't mimic creativity, adaptation, or intuition. They can only follow instructions. We don't follow instructions. We survive." Elias laughed softly. "Sounds like humans to a T." Mara smiled. "Exactly, and that's why we'll win." The day passed slowly. The syndicate sent messages demanding meetings, audits, and verification of legal paperwork. The aliens hovered silently, noting every reaction. But Elias and Mara focused on the land. They walked the fields, checked water channels, and ensured that every section of the ranch was covered by the relic's influence. The land was changing faster than anyone expected. What had been bare, cracked earth now had subtle hints of green. Irrigation channels were clearing themselves, and tiny sensors embedded in the soil began to hum softly. The relic was alive, reacting to human intent and effort. "This is more than just land restoration," Mara said. "It's proof of human adaptability. We didn't force it. We worked with it, guided it, understood it. Other species think humans are primitive, but they underestimate our ability to think, cooperate, and improvise." Elias looked at her, understanding dawning. "So, that's why they're here. They want to see if humans can do it again." "And again, and again." "Yes," Mara replied. "They're testing the species, not just the ranch. Humans have survived impossible odds before. They want to know if it's repeatable." Late afternoon brought the first real challenge. A small syndicate team, escorted by alien observers, approached the barn. They carried paperwork and devices designed to interface with the relic. Elias stepped forward. "I'm afraid the relic doesn't respond to unauthorized users." One of the aliens tilted its head. "Unauthorized meaning?" "Only humans with mutual intent can activate it," Mara said calmly. "Not machines, not coercion, not observation. Only humans working together willingly. It's not programmable, it's responsive. The aliens made soft humming sounds like they were processing the information. One of them extended a hand, glowing briefly. A holographic interface appeared, trying to mimic the glyphs on the relic. Mara touched Elia's arm. "Watch," she whispered. "We do it our way." Together they pressed the glyphs. Their hands moved in precise synchronization, guided by instinct, timing, and understanding. The relic pulsed brightly. The ground vibrated softly. Water flowed faster through channels. Crops rose slightly from the soil. The alien devices flickered and shut down. They could not replicate the effect. Elias grinned. "Told you humans survive in ways you can't predict." Mara smiled faintly. "And we're just getting started." By evening, the aliens withdrew slightly. They hovered, silent but observant, as though noting patterns for later analysis. The syndicate, frustrated and alarmed, retreated to their hovercrafts. Elias leaned against the railing, exhausted but satisfied. Mara joined him, arms crossed, hair ruffled by the wind. "You realize they're going to report everything?" Elias asked. "I know," Mara replied. "And the galaxy will take notice, but that's fine. Humans have survived scrutiny before. We'll adapt again, and we'll protect this ranch." Elias nodded. "I just hope it's enough." "The syndicate won't give up easily." Mara placed a hand on his shoulder. "It doesn't matter. Humans survive not because we're the strongest. We survive because we're clever, determined, and unpredictable. That's something no alien or corporation can calculate." Night fell. Stars appeared above Kestrel 9, sharp and bright against the dark sky. The plains seemed quiet, almost peaceful, yet both knew it was only temporary. The auction, the union, and the relic had drawn attention. Aliens, corporations, and perhaps others unseen were now aware of what humans could do. Elias looked at Mara. "Do you ever wonder if they'll come back with force?" She shrugged. "Maybe, but even then humans survive. Always." And in that quiet moment, for the first time, Elias realized the full meaning of the union. It wasn't just a legal contract. It wasn't just survival. It was proof. Proof that humans could adapt, resist, and outthink forces far stronger than themselves. Mara looked up at the stars. "They don't understand humans. They think we follow rules blindly, but we bend rules, adapt, and cooperate. That's why we survive. That's why the relic responded to us. That's why this land is ours." Elias nodded, feeling a strange pride. "Then we just keep doing what humans do best." "Yes," Mara said, "and no one, not syndicate, not alien, can stop it." For now, the land was safe, and humans had won not by weapons but by ingenuity, trust, and determination. The galaxy was watching. And it was about to learn that humans were far more dangerous than anyone had expected. The plains of Kestrel 9 were quiet, but the calm was deceiving. From a distance, the hovercrafts of the syndicate glimmered under the dying sun. Alien observers hovered silently above, their smooth silver bodies reflecting the red light of sunset. Elias Cade stood on the porch of the ranch house, hands gripping the wooden railing. Beside him, Mara checked sensors scattered across the land. Each device blinked softly, feeding data back to the relic underground. "They're coming," Mara said quietly, "and this time they won't stop with words or paperwork." Elias exhaled slowly. "Then we meet them on our terms." Mara nodded. "Exactly. The frontier has rules. But humans write their own rules when the old ones don't help." The wind picked up, carrying dust across the plains like waves in a golden sea. In that wind, humans, aliens, and corporations were about to test the limits of survival, law, and ingenuity. By mid-afternoon, the syndicate deployed its full force. 10 hovercrafts circled the ranch, landing near the edges of the fields. Their teams included legal enforcers, engineers, and scientists, all moving with precision. Alien observers remained at a safe distance, analyzing every movement. Elias and Mara stood side by side, facing the approaching threat. "They've brought tools to interface with the relic," Mara said. "They think they can override it." "They're wrong," Elias replied. We've already proven that. Only humans acting together can activate it, Mara nodded. Then we use that, but it's more than the relic now. They'll try to divide us, pressure us, distract us. That's their weakness. Humans adapt. They can't predict intuition. Elias glanced at her. You make it sound easy. Not easy, Mara said. Impossible for them. The syndicate's lead engineer stepped forward, holding a device that pulsed with blue light. Human residents, the engineer called. We are authorized to inspect and access the relic. Step aside or legal consequences will follow. Elias shook his head. The relic doesn't respond to threats, only cooperation. Mara raised her hand. And we cooperate on our terms. They descended into the underground chamber together. The relic's glow illuminated the walls, casting long shadows. It pulsed softly as if sensing their presence, alive and aware. Remember, Mara said, timing and intent. One mistake and it won't work. Elias nodded. They pressed the glyphs together, hands moving in perfect synchronization. The relic responded immediately, sending pulses of energy into the soil. Tiny sprouts across the ranch pushed upward, soil hardened where erosion had taken hold, and water channels cleared themselves. Above ground, the syndicate engineers tried to activate their devices, but nothing happened. The alien observers hummed softly, clearly intrigued. They can't do it, Mara said quietly. They can try, but they lack human intuition. Elias smiled. We didn't need weapons. We just needed humans. The syndicate shifted tactics. They spread their teams across the ranch, attempting to block human paths and control access points. Hovercrafts hovered close, dropping small mechanical probes that attempted to interface with the relic. Mara activated remote sensors, sending false signals to confuse them. They expect a technical battle, she said, but humans fight with creativity, not machines. Elias nodded. Then let's give them a lesson. Together, they moved quickly across the land, activating secondary sequences of the relic. Each step repaired more of the fields, made irrigation channels flow faster, and sent tiny pulses of data into the alien observers' scanners. The aliens tilted their heads, analyzing, recording, and silently noting the difference between human creativity and mechanical replication. Elias turned to Mara. They'll learn too late. They can't outthink humans, she grinned. And that's why we survive. The sun dipped lower, casting a red glow over the plains. Shadows lengthened. The syndicate realized that legal threats and technology alone could not win. They attempted negotiation, sending emissaries toward the porch. Elias stepped forward. We're listening. The lead agent spoke. Surrender the relic and the land. Resistance will lead to further legal action and intervention. Mara shook her head. You don't understand humans. Resistance isn't just about survival. It's about choosing how to survive. And humans never surrender if they can find a way to succeed. The agent paused. The alien observers tilted their heads. The human's defiance was not irrational. It was methodical, precise, and cooperative. Elias and Mara descended again into the chamber, working the glyphs in unison. The relic pulsed brighter, sending visible waves of energy across the ranch. Crops sprouted rapidly, water flowed clearly, and small mechanical drones the syndicate had deployed malfunctioned. They couldn't interface with the relic. The syndicate agents shouted in frustration, but their words carried no weight. The humans controlled the situation, not through strength, but through understanding, timing, and cooperation. Night approached. The stars began to appear above Kestrel 9. The relic's glow illuminated the ranch, visible even from the hovercrafts. The syndicate teams finally paused, realizing brute force and technology were useless against human ingenuity. Elias leaned against Mara, exhausted but proud. We did it, he said. We protected the ranch. Mara shook her head. We didn't just protect it. We showed that humans adapt, cooperate, and survive against impossible odds. They may have technology, they may have numbers, but they can't predict humans. Above them, the alien observers hovered silently, recording, analyzing. The humans had passed a test they didn't even know was happening. Elias looked out at the plains. "Do you think they'll try again?" Mara shrugged. "Maybe, but we'll adapt again. Humans always do." The wind carried the dust across the plains, carrying with it the scent of renewal and determination. The land was safe. The humans had survived. The relic had responded only to them. And the galaxy, for the first time, was beginning to notice that humans were not to be underestimated. By midnight, the syndicate withdrew. Their hovercrafts lifted into the dark sky, engines humming softly. The aliens remained at a distance, silently observing, but they too began to leave, taking records of human methods, timing, and coordination. Elias and Mara stood together on the porch, looking at the stars. "You know," Elias said quietly, "this is more than survival. This is proof. Humans can take impossible situations and turn them into victories." Mara smiled faintly. "That's what humans do. Not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most advanced, but the most adaptable, the most determined, the most unpredictable." Elias laughed softly. "Unpredictable, that's us." "Yes," Mara said, "and that's why the relic responded to us. Only humans could activate it. Only humans could save this land." The night was calm, the stars bright, and the ranch alive. The auction, the union, and the relic had drawn attention. But humans had proven that even in the face of overwhelming odds, they could survive, adapt, and thrive. Above the plains, somewhere in distant councils and alien laboratories, records were being written, analyses being made. The galaxy was beginning to understand something it had not known before. Humans were dangerous, not because they could destroy, but because they could think. And on Kestrel 9, the frontier had been tested, and humans had won. The stars over Kestrel 9 were cold and sharp, but the plains beneath them glowed with renewed life. The fields, once cracked and barren, now thrummed with energy from the relic underground. Crops pushed up from the soil, water channels flowed clearly, and the ranch breathed like a living organism. Elias Cade stood on the porch, his hands gripping the railing. Beside him, Mara Vey scanned the horizon, her eyes sharp and calculating. "It's quiet for now," Elias said. Mara nodded. "But they won't stay quiet, not the syndicate, not the aliens. Both have a lot invested in this land and in testing humans." Elias let out a slow breath. "Then we finish this, once and for all." Mara's lips curved into a small smile. "Exactly. Humans survive not because we retreat, but because we act. And now we act together." By mid-morning, movement appeared on the plains. Hovercrafts, larger this time, approached in formation. Syndicate enforcers, engineers, and scientists filled them, accompanied by alien observers whose sleek silver forms reflected the sunlight. Elias and Mara descended into the underground chamber where the relic rested. The air was cool and still. The crystalline structure pulsed softly, waiting. "They'll try everything this time," Mara said. "Force, technology, threats. They don't understand humans. They can't predict ingenuity." Elias nodded. "Then we remind them why they shouldn't underestimate humans." Above ground, the syndicate deployed devices attempting to interface with the relic remotely. Drones hovered, beams of light scanning the surface, projecting holographic interfaces. Alien observers took notes, silently analyzing every failure. Mara adjusted a small control panel. "They can't access it. The relic doesn't respond to force or replication. Only humans with intent and mutual cooperation can activate it." Elias glanced at her. "Then we do it again, and faster this time." Together they moved across the glyphs on the relic, hands synchronized, minds focused. Pulses of energy radiated outward, invisible at first, then visible as faint golden waves across the fields. Soil hardened where erosion had taken hold. Water flowed through irrigation channels. Crops sprouted faster than the eye could follow. The syndicate's machines flickered, sparks flying as their attempts failed. Aliens tilted their heads, clearly astonished. "Humans survive in ways no machine can predict," Mara whispered. Elias grinned, "And we just proved it." The syndicate shifted strategy. They split their teams across the plains, attempting to block access, intimidate, and distract. Some deployed small, automated tools to probe the relic, but every attempt failed. Mara activated sensors, sending false signals to confuse them. They think they can win with technology. They can't. Humans fight with creativity. Elias nodded. "Then let's show them the full human advantage." Over the next few hours, Elias and Mara moved across the ranch, activating secondary sequences of the relic. Each step repaired more land, made water channels flow faster, and even activated dormant energy nodes buried beneath the soil. The syndicate agents grew frustrated. They tried negotiation. "Step aside," shouted the lead engineer. "The relic is under our jurisdiction. Legal action will follow." Mara shook her head. "Humans do not step aside when survival is at stake. You don't understand humans. They adapt, cooperate, and act unpredictably. You can't force us to fail." The aliens observed silently, recording everything. Their analysis showed what humans had always known instinctively. Survival depended on cooperation, creativity, and timing, not sheer force or numbers. As night fell, the stakes rose. The syndicate launched one last attempt. Hovercrafts moved closer, drones swarmed, and devices interfaced with the relic. Elias and Mara pressed the glyphs again, hands moving in perfect synchronization. Pulses of energy spread across the ranch, faster and brighter this time. Crops rose visibly. Water flowed like a stream of light. Soil repaired itself. The relic hummed louder, responding to their combined intent. The syndicate devices failed, overloaded by the energy. The drones malfunctioned, spinning and falling harmlessly into the fields. Aliens remained at a distance, clearly astonished by human capability. Elias laughed. "They can try again tomorrow, but humans survive." Mara smiled. "And that's all we need. We don't need to fight. We just need to think, to act, to cooperate." By midnight, the syndicate withdrew completely. Hovercrafts lifted off, engines humming softly, leaving the humans alone. The aliens hovered for a while longer, scanning the fields and recording data, then disappeared into the night sky. Elias and Mara emerged from the chamber, exhausted but triumphant. The land was fully restored. The relic pulsed softly beneath the surface, a quiet reminder of what humans could achieve. "You know," Elias said quietly, "we didn't just save the ranch, we showed them something. Humans are dangerous, not with weapons, not with numbers, but with our minds." Mara nodded. "Exactly, and that's why the relic responded to us. Only humans could activate it. Only humans could protect this land." Elias looked at the fields, alive with energy. "Then this is ours. We made it ours, not because of luck, not because of power, but because we are humans." Mara smiled faintly. "Yes, and this land, this home, is what humans call home. We fight for it, we protect it, and we survive because of it." In the weeks that followed, the ranch thrived. Crops flourished. Soil enriched itself. Water systems stabilized. Word spread across the frontier. Humans had reclaimed a lost ranch, outsmarted a powerful syndicate, and survived the scrutiny of alien observers. Other settlers came, curious about the human methods. Elias and Mara shared knowledge carefully, not secrets but lessons in cooperation, timing, and ingenuity. Humans had survived by adapting, and now others could learn from that. The syndicate never returned. Their reports went to distant offices, warning of human unpredictability and resilience. Alien observers filed detailed records, marking humans as a species to be studied carefully. And through it all, Elias and Mara remained at the ranch, partners in survival, not ownership. Their union, born from law and necessity, became a bond of trust and mutual respect. One evening, as the twin moons rose over Kestrel 9, Elias and Mara stood on the porch, looking out at the plains. The land glowed faintly with energy from the relic, but more importantly, it glowed with human determination. "We survived," Elias said softly. Mara nodded. "Not just survived, we thrived. Humans always find a way," Elias smiled. "And the galaxy will know it now." Mara laughed quietly. "They'll have to. Humans don't just survive. We adapt, cooperate, and overcome. That's what makes us special." The stars sparkled above them. The wind carried the scent of fresh soil and growth. For the first time in many cycles, the frontier felt alive, not just with land but with possibility. Elias placed a hand on Mara's shoulder. "Then we keep going, protect this land, teach others, show the galaxy what humans can do." Mara smiled. "Exactly. This is what humans call home, and we'll defend it every day." The relic pulsed softly beneath the earth, a quiet heartbeat of energy. Humans had survived the auction, the syndicate, and alien observation. They had protected their land, proven their ingenuity, and shown that survival depended not on force, but on cooperation, timing, and creativity. The galaxy had learned a lesson. Humans were dangerous, not because they were strong, but because they could think, adapt, and survive against impossible odds. And on Kestrel 9, the frontier had been won, by humans for humans, in a way only humans could achieve.